Hello Year 4, it's Mr. Casey here, as you can see from this wonderful picture of me in Barcelona. I'm going to be doing some art with you today. We're going to be basing it on some of the work that you've been looking at with Gaudi. As you can see from some of the pictures that I've put up here, Gaudi liked to draw nice curved lines, and he was inspired by nature. He never usually drew or created his work with straight lines, it was always curved lines. Here's some of his more famous work. That's the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. And this is the building, the Casa Bayo, that we're going to be looking at today in order to do our work. In particular, we're going to be looking at this part of the Casa Bayo. If you look at it carefully, it looks like a dragon. Hello, Year 4. Today I'm going to do a bit of drawing with you. We're going to do some work based on Gaudi, as you saw from the slides before. We're going to draw a picture a step at a time, so a bit like Draw with Rob, just follow along as I do it, okay? So first what we're going to do is we need to have, well, I've got two different pens. I've got a thick pen and I've got a thin pen. This thin pen I'm going to use to do some details, but I'm not going to need that straight away, so I'm just going to put that to the side. I've also got some colouring pencils. I'd like you to use pencils as well, because you can get a better coverage with pencils, and it just looks neater sort of generally, unless you have professional ones. So we're just going to stick with colour pencils for today. But first of all you need is a thick or thicker pen. So I've got a Sharpie, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so first of all we're going to start up in this quarter of our page. Okay, first thing you're going to draw is kind of like a curvy sideways 7 shape. So you just follow as I do it. You come out, and you curve, and you go just down this way, and make sure it's nice and rounded, and make it sort of half of your thumb size maybe. Look pretty good. Okay, and once you get down to about this point, I want you to turn, and we're going to turn and go in a C shape, sort of to level where we started to bend here, so around here, okay? I'm going to go in a C shape this way. And it hasn't got to be perfect. The reason you use a thick pen is you can smooth out some lines. If you're not completely happy, you can make your lines a bit smoother and make them a bit neater. Okay, now we're going to do another kind of C shape that's slightly elongated, a bit curvier. We're going to come up and around sort of this way, and you might notice as I do it, I use the curve of my hand to do some of my shapes, so you can do that too. So I'm going to come up and around, make that nice and curvy, and stop. Maybe go a bit more round. Stop kind of just shy of that. Okay, I'm going to have a little pause. Here we're going to add a small triangle shape, like that. Okay. Okay, we're just going to come right back down to this C. Okay, and we're going to imagine that this C curves around just a little bit and comes and carries on, just going up just around here. Okay, so follow your curve round, slightly flat at the bottom, and then pull it up just a little bit. Okay, doesn't need to go too far at all, just a small little curve there. All right, now we need to add on here. Okay, we're going to add sort of a leaf shape on here. We're going to come out from this line, we're going to go just a bit further than it, sort of in line with that, so it's going to be a bit longer. It's going to be in line with this top fin here, okay? We're going to curve up like that, and then we're going to curve it back in like that. Easy peasy. Then we're going to imagine there's another one of these on the other side behind here, and we're going to add just the top, because that's all you'll be able to see, because it's behind that. That's the only bit you'll be able to see there, okay? And then we can finish off this curve going into there. Right, next step, we're going to carry on this line past the head. So it's going behind, past the head, sorry, carry on in with the head, and we're going to go past this ear shape here, or this leaf that we've drawn. And we're going to curve and do a big sort of curve like this, and then tiny bit out, okay? So it's going to go round, and then a tiny bit out. Okay, and I want you to do it as rounded as you can. Don't go straight down, because that'll look a bit weird. If you go round, it makes it look much nicer, because if you look back at the Gaudi stuff that we were looking at before, you'll see that he hardly ever uses straight lines. And there's a reason for that. He wants things to be natural and look like they come from nature. And we're trying to copy that idea and have something that looks natural and be curved, and that's what we're going to do. So let's curve this around, like I said, and then just out a little bit like that. And that's it, just for now. Okay, curving around and a little bit out. Then we're going to come to this side, and we're going to make this line thick, okay? So we're going to start sort of a little bit to the left of halfway between these two curves, a little bit to the left. We're going to copy that same shape, okay? We want it to look equal on both sides, because we don't want it to go down to a skinny point like a bow tie. We don't want that. We want it to come around, okay? And we're going to go way further than this time. We're going to come right down to about here, okay? And it's going to be a nice big curve like that, okay? So around, and then a nice big curve around the front. And you can probably see what we're drawing now. We've got the makings of a dragon. So we've got our head up here, and we've drawn our neck, and now we need to do around the back and its bottom and its tail. We're going to have it curve around this way and add our wings on here, and then we're going to add detail, which is the tricky bit. So let's keep going. We're going to curve this line just a little bit more around, just a tiny bit further than the chin here, or the jawbone. So just around there a little bit, and keep that nice rounded shape. But remember, if you've got a thick pen, see how I've gone out there, I can thicken out this line, and it makes it look just that little bit more defined. Looks a bit sort of like there's a shadow there almost, okay? And we're going to add some shadows later, so it's fine to have a little bit to start with. Okay, so dragons, not all the time. We've had a look at dragons now. They come from different cultures. Some of them have 2 legs, some of them have 4, some of them have more than that. I'm sure some of the children in the class could tell you a lot more about dragons than I can, but our dragon today is just going to have 4 legs, okay? So we're going to add his front left leg on, and the way we do that is we do a curve from this point. We're going to do another C shape, okay? So it's pretty simple, lots and lots of C shapes. We're going to go round about here. A nice big curvy C shape. Right, it's not the curliest of C shapes, but it is still a C shape. So that curve going that way, okay? And then we're going to add another one coming out here, but this one's going to be slightly straight, still a little bit curved, but slightly straighter, okay? I'm just going to go down just like that and leave it there for now. Okay, then we're going to come onto this other side, and we're going to add the back of this leg by, we've got to imagine that this comes through still. Imagine it's pretty tricky to see, but you'll see when I actually draw it in a second. You'll see that this bit of the leg's going to have to be straight, okay? So I'm going to do it straight like this, and then I'm going to add that muscle at the back of that leg there. Okay, then I'm going to add a curve for his back of his, that'll be his forearm, I guess, or his foreleg, his shin. And we're not going to do spiky claws on this, so we're just going to curl them round. Stop there, and then curl this one round, and just tuck it in just underneath, and it looks like he's got his, like that, like his claws are inside. And then we're going to add the second claw by just copying that shape just behind here. So we're going to copy that line down and curve it in. And we don't need to draw the rest of the arm because it's behind this one, so we haven't got to worry about that. That's done for us. Okay, I'm just going to curve that up a little bit and round these off. Okay, now we're going to carry on his body coming out this way. Ours is a bit of a fat dragon, but there's a reason behind that. We're going to make him fat for a reason. We're going to just keep his body going round, and then slightly curved down this time. So it's going round like his chest, but then it comes down for his tummy, and we're going to have to stop just there again, okay? And then we need to do the back legs. So the back legs are generally going to be bigger. Our back legs are going to be much bigger, and he's going to have huge back feet as well. So I'm going to do the front of his back left leg is going to curve around like this. If you imagine like a dog, they've got really sort of curvy big bits on the backs of their legs where their hips are. We're going to do the same sort of curve here, okay? So we're going to start over here, bring it all the way around, and see how I'm pivoting on my hand. You can do the same thing because it helps you do a nice curve. And again, it hasn't got to be perfect. I'm just going to fill out those lines to make them go round. Okay, I'm going to bring that even round just a little bit more actually. All right, I'm going to bring this down a tiny bit more, and then I'm going to have his legs coming this way. Okay, so I'm going to curve the back of that leg there. I'm going to add a bump, and that bump is going to be his heel. All right, I'm going to do the top of the leg now, and it's going to come quite close, not all the way to that, pretty much all the way. Okay, same as the feet before, we're just going to curve them round just the same way. Curve it round like this, curve another toe like this, and then we're going to finish our foot going this way, but we're going to just add a couple of little bumps and sort of do a kind of a flat W, like that, and like that, and we just join them up. Okay, I'm going to do a third toe on there as well, so it's got 2 on the front and 3 on the back. Just like that. So this one is the middle toe, and I've added that extra toe just there. Okay, we're not done though. I've still got to do that 4th leg, the one behind there. So same as we did here, we just sort of followed that line. I'm just going to follow those lines again. Okay, so I'm just going to add another curve there. Follow the line going this way, and because I've got this leg slightly this way, this foot's going to come slightly more that way, which is why we've got that nice gap there. So go round, and we can curve it round, and it's just going to tuck in behind that foot. If you want to add that extra toe, you can add that extra toe. All right, so we're almost there. I mean, we've pretty much got the whole body, and we just got to add that tail bit coming down here, and its wings, and then we're going to add some detail. So let's do its back. I've curved it down, we're going to curve it again. I'm going to use that natural shape of my hand to do a nice sweep around here, and then I'm going to have to just sort of pull it down for its bum around there, and its tail is going to sort of tuck behind its leg but then come out again over here. So let's do that. Curve round like this. Curve round for his bottom. Curve round under its foot there, and keep going, right? And I know I've got sort of some little jaggedy lines there, but like I said before, with here, you can always just go over it. That's why it's good to have a nice thick pen. Go over it again and add those details. So I'm going to just carry on and curve it round to here, and I'm going to have his tail come in this way. So curve, nice curvy round shape, just like that. Okay, now I need to add the other side of his tail. So his other side of his tail is going to come up. Going to try and keep the same sort of thickness around to here. Going to come up past that foot and go just under there and tuck in underneath his feet there. And like I said, you can thicken out those lines just like that. Okay. Right, looking good. Okay, what we got to do now? So, like I said, we got wings, but before we do the wings, if we look back at the picture of Casabayo, you'll see that it's got sort of bumps on the top. They sort of look a bit like fins or spines, like on a Spinosaurus. We're going to add some for our dragon too. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to have lots and lots of little lines that come out like a sort of. Okay, so You may have noticed just then the picture just shifted a little bit. Things might have just shifted about a little bit. That's because I had a bit of a problem with the recording, but I'm back on it now, okay. I'd actually carried on a whole few steps ahead without realising that it stopped, but I'm going to carry on anyway. So, next thing we're going to add is our spines along the back of our dragon. So, if you look at the Casa Bio, you'll see that there are sort of spine shapes along the back there. We're going to add ours too. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to start off just doing 2 lines for each spine, okay? Our spine's finally going to end up looking like 5-sided shapes. We're going to start off with 2 lines and they're going to be slightly pointed out from each other, okay, as they go around the back. So it'll become a bit clear when I show you now. What we do is we start near this top ear. We have a little line coming out, just like that. And then a little line going out, pointing the other way. So one's going that way, one's coming this way. Then we're going to leave a gap about the same width again, and add another one. And we're going to keep going round, adding just those lines, out and out, out and out. And the problem with this is sometimes people get tripped up and they do the 2 lines going the same way. Don't worry too much, just try your best and add those little lines going out like that. And we're going to keep going around just to near the bottom here, but as we get nearer the bottom, we're just going to make them slightly smaller and slightly closer together. So do another big one there, and then slightly closer together and slightly smaller, and then again closer together and smaller, and then maybe 1 or 2 more, like that. And the way we finish off these spines is we add 3 other sides. Okay, and these 3 other sides are going to do 1 side pointed in, and another side pointed in, and then join them on the top. And it's as easy as that. So 1 in, do it on the top. Now, I've made this mistake before, and I'm sure some of you will too today. It's not a big problem. Just try and be careful, because when you're doing repetitive movements, going over and over the same thing again, you can easily make mistakes. So just make sure you're concentrating and getting the lines going the right way. In, and join across the top. In, join across the top. Okay. Just go all the way around to the back. Okay. We've got lots of gaps in there. We're going to fill those gaps in. The way we're going to fill them in is just with semicircles. So we're going to do a semicircle here, and that kind of makes it look like the back of a second set or a second row of fins going down the back. So I'm going to add one just sort of tucked behind the ear as there to fill in that gap. And then I'm just going to semicircles all the way around, little bumps all the way around. And if you have trouble doing these sort of pentagons, but actually hexagons because they've got the flat side at the bottom, if you have trouble doing those, you can just add curved ones all the way around, or make yours into pointed ones. It's up to you really on this part. I'm just going to keep going all the way around, fill in all the gaps, and then when we get to this last one, we can just add a couple of small little bumps on the end there, and it just makes it look like they gradually get smaller and thin out. Okay, a couple more bits to do before we start adding detail. We need to finish off this tail, and we need to add a bit of the dragon's tummy on here. If you look at snakes, they have scales on their back, and then on their tummies they have sort of ribs almost, and we're going to add ribs onto ours because snakes and dragons are sort of linked, aren't they? So we're going to do that today. So we'll do the tail first, and then we'll get to that after. So the way we finish our tail is we're going to have a pointed tail. We're going to make it look a bit like the tiles again on the Casa Bio. They come sort of rounded triangles, so almost like an arrowhead. So we're going to do that together. The way we're going to do that is just going to curve our tail off at the end and sort of make it look a bit like fish hooks pointed outwards from each other. So we're going to curve it out just like that, and then the same on the other side. Then we're going to curve back in on both sides, so we've got this sort of wiggly shape on both ends. Then these two are going to come and meet out here and just have a curved end on the bottom of your page. If, I'm sure some of you have, because the first time I did it, I didn't leave enough space either. If you haven't got enough space, you can always just tape a little bit of paper onto the bottom there. Just add a little bit of tape just to make yours a little bit longer. That's not really a big problem. Okay, we're going to add our tummy shape now. So the way we do our snake-like tummy shape is we start from under the chin. We're going to follow this line round, but we're going to make it gradually larger as we get round to this tummy. We're going to tuck it behind these legs and then tuck it in behind this leg. And then we're just going to pull it out from under here and just pull it into the end of the tail here, okay? So where we've got our sort of J or C shape here for the jaw, we're just going to start maybe just a half or a centimetre away, just a short distance like that. We're going to follow that curve, but gradually make it slightly wider. So we're not going to follow it really tightly. We're just going to lose it a little bit as we go round. You'll see what I mean. See how it's getting slightly larger there. And then I'm going to use that, what I said about that curve of my hand, just to tuck it in there. Okay, I'm going to imagine it goes through underneath that leg, comes out here, carries on its curve, and it's going to tuck down just into that leg there. Then we imagine it goes, follows the tail around, because this leg's in the way of the tail, follows the tail around, just comes out behind this leg, and it's going to just come out here, just a short way along, and we're just going to join it up. And that's it. That's all we have to do for that bit. That's nice and easy. Okay. We're going to add a couple of little details on the face before we get into the really detaily stuff with this pen. But first, what we need to do is add another horn, actually 2 horns and some eyes, okay? And there's a couple of ways you can do the eyes. It's up to you. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Oh, and we need to add the wings, of course, because dragons have wings, or at least our dragon's going to have wings. So the way we do our eyes, there are 2 ways you can do your eyes. I'm going to do a different way to the way I'm going to show you here. I've drawn it on just a scrap of paper. So you can do an eye this way. So you just draw a circle and then add 2 smaller circles and fill in all the gaps. And for this far right, you wouldn't see the whole of the eye. So you do a half circle and just leave a small circle and then fill in the gap. And that'll just go pop on your dragon like that. Okay, and you can have nice rounded eyes if you want eyes like that. I'm not going to do eyes like that. Mine's going to be a bit of a mean dragon, so I'm going to add some mean eyes to it. And the way I do that is this is our nose. This is our snout, maybe. Yeah, I guess I'd have a snout. So our eyes are going to sort of line up just with that curve of that snout there. We're going to just add it just here, a little. It's not just going to be a little dot, that looks a bit silly. We're going to add a small curve just pointed upwards like that. Okay, then I'm going to add a slightly larger curve going around like that. Okay, I'm going to just tuck that in there, and that just gives the impression that there's another eye behind them. We can't see it, but we know that there's something just around that side there, okay? And we don't need to add the detail. I'm gonna still do those little circles to make it look like there's some light on the eye. So I've got 1 circle here, 1 circle here, and then I fill in the gap. And then I'm gonna add an eyebrow. Like, they wouldn't really have eyebrows as such, but it just gives it a little bit of detail. All right, so from here, we've got our curved spine, our first one here. Actually, this is our spine number 2. We're gonna add another one further down. That's gonna help it be stable when it's flying. So on the bottom line there, we have to imagine that there's a curve that comes down and goes right between those eyes. And sort of halfway up, we're gonna add just a tiny curve. And then we're gonna make it look a bit like a shark's fin coming out of water. So we do looks like a bit like a V. And then almost goes straight down. Not quite straight, just curve it just a tiny bit, but almost straight down. And it gives it a nice fin shape. Then we're going to add a little horn on the nose. Horns are quite easy to do. You just do a small semicircle, not semicircle, sorry, a small curve on the bottom, and then we add a point on the top. That's fairly easy. And then we can just add our nostrils underneath that. We can use that same curve. So I'm just going to add one there and one there, just 2 short lines. Fairly easy. Okay, got one more thing to do with our pen, which is the wings, and then we're going to use our skinny pen to add some details and get into the tricky bits. So from down here, from this corner where there's our sort of straightish line coming down here, that's the part of the dragon where the wings would attach. So we're going to add a big backwards 7 shape almost. Okay, so this one, it almost is straight actually. This is the straightest part we're going to do. We're going to come up, then we're going to curve and come this way. I'm going to make it just a bit high. I'm going to make it just a bit higher than his head. Okay, or sort of in line with his head at least. Okay, and then I'm going to curve it and go out like that. So it's a big sort of backwards 7 shape. Okay, and then this part's fairly easy. We're not going to add way too much detail on this, at least not yet. We're just going to add a sort of simple, almost bat wing shape. And the way we do that is sort of a 3-pronged, 3 curved M. So we curve in with one. I'm using that natural curve of my hand again. Curve in with one. Curve in with another one. And then this one's going to come not to the same point, just slightly further down, but also curve round. Okay. I'm going to add the second one behind it by following the same shape. So I'm going to be going up. Curve in again, follow that line. And where this one's slightly that way, I don't have to quite go to the end here. I can just tuck it in there. Okay, and a small bit of detailing we will do with our fat pen on this. So we're just going to add another curve in there, and it makes it look like there's like a bone or something that holds that. We don't have to do it all the way to the end, just some of the way. It makes it look like maybe there's a bone holding that in place. And we're going to add just 2 sort of stretch lines here into the point. So I'm not gone right to the end, but almost to the end. And that makes it look like our wings are sort of stretched out, like they're made of skin. Okay, now we're going to get to the tricky part. So we're going to add some detail. So we need our skinnier pen. Now, I had a little experiment with some scales. Drawing some different scales, so I've drawn some on here. You can draw, this is the first one I did, you can draw around your fingernails, but you're not going to get many in there. If you use your little finger, you can just literally just draw around your fingernail. You can try some sort of almost block-like square scales. The ones I'm going to do today, these are arguably the easiest one, and they look quite good as well, so I'm going to use these ones, which is sort of my rounded W style scales. So we're going to add those ones onto our dragon today. So I'm going to start up near the ear here. I'm going to add 3. So I'm going to do this. It's going to take me a little while. So whilst I do this, I'm just going to pause the video. Well, I'm going to stop the video and then I'll restart it once I've drawn all the scales on for you to see. Okay, I'll just do a couple so you can see it and then I'll pause it. Okay, so first one. Round. Try and keep them all the same size. And then I'm not going to go into that same line. I don't want them all one under the other. I'm going to move it over, a bit like bricks, how they slightly off from each other. We're going to do the same sort of thing. So curving around like that. And the ones that I need to finish, I just finish at the top, okay? Doesn't have to go all the way to the bottom to fill in the space. So then I'm going to just keep going down, trying to keep them the same size, and also trying to follow the shape of my neck. And I'm going to keep going all the way round. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video for now and then I'll come back after. Okay, so I've done most of my, well, I've done all of my scales really. Just got to add the little tiny bits of detail. This is going to take you a little while. Try not to rush it. When you get to corners like I have here, you see I've done them slightly smaller. So that makes it look like it curves around, and then I've done them slightly larger elsewhere, which also helps make it look like it swerves in a pattern and curves around. So now what I need to do is just add the little bits of detail, make it look realistic. So the little bits that I'm talking about are in between our W shapes. Just add in a few little lines of shadow, and that makes it look like they're lying on top of each other. It makes it look like they're doing this rather than just all next to each other. So I'm going to pause the video again and I'm going to add those details in. Okay, let me take a step down. Let me do another line that goes like this. It looks like it goes in there, and you could add a couple of small shading lines in there, and it just gives it that little sort of depth. It makes it look like it goes in the ear rather than it's flat. And then we could just add a little bit of stippling, some dots and circles. It makes it look like these scales, maybe some slightly bigger ones in the back, but it makes it look like these scales have not just stopped and disappeared. It makes it look like they've sort of gradually faded to get smaller. We can add a little bit of shading around the jaw as well, just by adding some small lines around the jaw like that. And then we've just got to do this snake sort of ribbed belly that snakes have. So slightly curved lines again. I'm going to curve, leave a space, curve, leave a space, curve. As I get around here, I might want to, instead of curving them over the belly, because our perspective is changing, I'm going to just make this one go slightly the other way, and slightly more spread out, and then as it gets smaller, slightly closer together, and not forgetting the bit around the bottom of the tail there. Okay, and because I'm super good at colouring in, I'm going to colour mine in now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use sort of colours that are sort of in the same range. So mine, I'm going to go with blue. So I'm going to use sort of the blues here and maybe the green. I'm not going to touch any of the reds. If you want to go red and pink, sort of stick to the red and pink and maybe a bit of yellow, or stick to the blue, sort of stick to the colours that they're with, and it makes it look a little bit better. I'm going to go with blue because Gaudi's roof is blue, and I'm going to do that really quickly right now. Okay, so I've used light blue on the majority of my drawing. I'm going to use a dark blue to do his feet and his belly and his scales, his fins, sorry, or spines, just to add that little bit of extra detail. So I'm going to do that now. And there we have it. So that's our final picture. one thing we can add extra, just so it's not floating in space, we could add a little bit of shadow underneath. So we could do that just by using your thick pen again, just by adding some squiggly lines sort of near the feet, maybe near the front feet as well. It just sort of makes it look like it's sitting on something rather than floating in space. You might want to extend those out a little bit. And that is it. So let me see your finished projects on Class Dojo. I'll be really interested to see what you've done. You can, of course, you don't have to use blue like I've done. You could choose any colours. You could even do a rainbow dragon if you fancy it. Let me see.